domestic violence has been a massive part of your life. Obviously for all the wrong reasons, of course. And you're here today to shed some light on some of your experiences in the hope that you can help some other people who might be going through some of their own. And just as much how you transition from going through the process of dealing with those things that were happening at the time to learning how to best cope with them within your strengths, of course, and how you are today and how you're dealing with them on a daily basis. In your words, you've said there are times when you feel hopeless, even worthless, or, like somehow you don't have a way out of these things. That was you at one point, and obviously you've come a long way in that time. But I want you to kind of refer to what you've just said there from your own words again, shed some light on it, share some experiences with the viewers, and talk a little bit about how you went through the stages.
Yeah. When I think of those words, it brings back a lot of memories of when I was young, and, particularly when you're almost too young to add light to the situation or try and, what can I do to help the situation?
Yep.
From my earliest memories, probably about 4 or 5 years old, that's as far back as I can remember, really, till probably my mid-teens was the most important factor in this.
Okay. In what sense?
So when you're a certain age, you feel hopeless, helpless as well, because I can't do anything. I'm so young, they're not going to listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things, and when you kind of stare at your ceiling at night, not knowing what to think, not knowing what to do, it come that sense of loneliness. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know what I'm going to come home to. I go home at night and I have to listen to my parents fighting all the time, where all you really want is to come together as a family and be happy. So yeah, it did get really tough, and I kind of started to realize as I got a bit older that I gotta stop.
So I'll stop you there for a sec. So you said obviously you were feeling very hopeless and helpless from a young age. And I'm sure a part of you would have been trying to look up to some figures in your life that might have been able to help you get through those tough times. But perhaps you can tell the viewers here now who those figures were in your life and what was going on in their own lives. Who you're referring to.
I guess as a man, you kind of want to look up to your father and know that he's there for you and know that he's got your back and he can help you through any situation. But when you have a father that struggles with a lot of his own issues like gambling and drugs and alcohol, and he's always not sober enough to be there for you, you kind of have to fend for yourself. I had to rely on my older brothers to teach me things and stuff. And
The man in your life who you probably should have been looking up to.
yeah, he was always never there for me, and I feel like it took a very big toll on myself growing up.
Yeah.
Which is, once I got to my mid-teens and my parents had split, I was sort of at a situation where it's like, oh, is mum ever going to be happy again? My main focus was always making sure that my mum was, happy and always healthy, because I'm always so close with my mum. I always just wanted to make sure that no matter what happens to me in my life, as long as she gets through and she's okay, that's my main concern. And it's a big thing to think about, especially when you're, roughly around the age of 15 and 16.
That's what I was going to say, actually.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to deal with those issues. You should be able to have both parents to come home to.
And you could have been excused for putting your mum's interests aside for your own interests at that age.
Yeah.
They're still pretty formative years of your life.
Yeah, I know. I should be focusing on school, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, rather than trying to focus on making sure my mum's okay.
Yep.
And it's a very scary thing to deal with, because especially when you look at domestic abuse, a lot of households struggle with domestic abuse. I'm not going to say that my family is the only family that dealt with this type of stuff, but you know,
It is what it is, though. At the end of the day, it's not. It doesn't make it
it's a
any
very
more
sensitive
manageable
it's a
because
very sensitive topic for me to talk about because it was a big part of me growing up.
has that. I guess seeing your mum the way she's now, having moved on from things going on with your father and the domestic stuff going on, do you feel now that your mum has moved on from that and she's gone and set up her own life, that has almost that's almost appeased, kind of like settled down and kind of ironed out one of the issues you had growing up? Because you said from sort of your mid-teens you're looking out for your mum. Has your mum settling down now helped you a lot to deal with not only that, of course, but your own stuff and your own mental health and that? Is it making you feel a bit better?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest things I think we've all got to focus on is, you know, what's next in our life.
Yeah,
Okay,
very important. Yeah.
I can't just, you know, keep sitting in my bedroom all the time and wondering what's going to happen. So by the time I got to the age of 21, I felt like I was ready to move out of home and try and take that next step in my life. You know, staying at home was always a constant reminder of, you know, all the things I went through. And my mum had found a new partner and they wanted to move on with their lives. So I felt like I was ready to try and tackle life, you know, try and find those responsibilities. Because I feel like to deal with your mental health, you got to learn to look after yourself. And if you can't look after yourself, you're just going to spiral backwards every single time.
You said your life could spiral backwards if you don't stay on top of your own mental health, right? At any point. What do you mean by that? Can you give us an example of what you mean by that?
What I mean by that is you can't always rely on people to look after you.
Okay.
When people have all different ways of dealing with their mental health. Some people seek professional help. In my instance, I was always too stubborn to seek professional help. I thought it wasn't going to help me. You know, I don't need some random person trying to figure out my life for me. I've got to figure it out myself. Otherwise, he or she who's trying to help me is gonna be there, say things that I want to hear. Where once I leave the room where they're working and trying to help me, I'm gonna go back out into the real world and what do I do next?
It's a very,
I feel like it's
very
a
interesting observation. Yeah.
very good learning curve for me. I got to a point where I was missing days of work because I just couldn't deal with the fact that how hard it really can be to try and tackle your mental health and try and get up in the morning. So instead of seeking professional help, I always turned to my mum for advice. I mean,
Wow.
I got to a point where I was like, Mum, I don't know what do I do? You know, I don't know how to deal with this anymore. And she would just be like, you know, the most important thing is someone will give you a hug and say everything's going to be okay. I feel like that's a lot better than someone saying you've got this and you've got this and I'm going to give you medication to try and deal with it. I
Yeah.
feel like seeking the warmth from another person's emotions really is a better medication than a couple of pills that's going to try and get you up in the morning.
So you feel as though a professional may have that scope for them to tell you what they think is not quite working for you at the moment, what might be going on there for you and what you might be dealing with.
Right.
But they may not be giving you the equipment you need and the resources you need to deal with them naturally and long term, and to deal with the problems at their core, as opposed to masking it up with a band-aid, such as, like you said yourself, like a tablet here or an antidepressant there or a sleeping pill to help you sleep at night or something that's going to give you more energy in the morning,
Right.
something like that. That's the sense I'm getting from you, is what you're trying to say. Is that what you're sort of leading towards?
Yeah.
Dealing with things at their kind of core?
I mean, I feel like what helped me most was trying to find people that could sort of feel my emotion and try and give me, advice that I really needed, not what was,
What you may want to
we
hear.
would say medically acceptable to hear.
Okay. Yep.
And for personal reasons, I'm gonna leave their name out. But I have a really close friend of mine. I'll call him S for the video. But when in a, when I was probably around about 18, became friends with him, and he's sort of someone that always understood. Always gave me perfect advice. And I'm not saying that a professional can't give you that perfect advice, but you know, at the end of the day, I can always rely on this friend, to know what I'm feeling.
Mm.
And it was just kind of a bit of luck finding a friend like this, because not everyone has, friends that they can turn to, a parent that they can turn to. Some people, particularly males, feel like they can't talk about these types of things. It's not okay for a man to cry.
Yeah. Can I just stop you there for a moment before you continue on with that? I want to refer back to your friend you're talking about. Your friend S, you were saying that he was giving you in what you called perfect advice. What I guess is relevant to know here is, what was it about him? What was it about his qualities, or even the things he was doing and saying? And how do you even think he understood you for you to feel confident that you could rely on him for that sort of stuff?
But I feel like he's someone that definitely deals with his own life experiences. And he just always has the best advice for me. I mean, I got to see him get married, which is probably one of the happiest days even for me. And
Yeah, well,
yeah, it was just like, this is
is
what
this
life is all about, trying to be happy and trying to find happy moments, reaching those goals.
yet again, in your own words, you have previously referred to feelings of angst and anxiety, a bit of agitation at times, with other people and other things going on around you. Sort of those self-ruminating, kind of constant reflective thoughts you have in your own mind, like, why is this happening and why is it happening to me? Could this have panned out any different? That sort of stuff. So I imagine you're dealing with them somewhat on a daily basis. All those things obviously would have affected you and would have affected your ability to progress forward with things. Can you talk about how you started to see past those feelings and those senses, and what were you doing to manage them so then that you could then start putting yourself on the right path?
So probably between the years of about 2021 and 2023 was when I was probably my most anxious and stressed out, particularly because of the fact you just don't know what's next. You know, sometimes things happen in your life that you can't control, and unfortunately, that can cause a toll on your mental health. And
But why those particular years?
it's because during those years, I kind of did fall in love with a girl, and unfortunately, that didn't work out. And you know, when you say things to people like, "Oh, I kind of need your help right now. I just need a friend to talk to," and they say things like, "Oh, you're being selfish because I'm going through my own things," kind of makes you think, who can I really rely on?
Mm,
Because sometimes you feel like you don't really have anyone, and that's when you become a bit hopeless as well.
yeah,
Sometimes,
of course.
not everyone is going to be there for you.
Yep.
And yeah, again, you feel lonely as well, and you try and the way I kind of got myself out of that rut is I set myself, different goals. I want to take this next step. If I can get up tomorrow morning, I'm already taking the next step to, trying to get myself better.
Really?
And I would always,
As in just getting through that day and then being there the next day.
yeah, you just think to yourself, I just got to get up tomorrow morning. I got to go to work. 8 hours can feel like a long time at work, but when you look at a whole life, 8 hours isn't really that much. So you just got to get to the end of the day, try and recap when you get home,
Yeah.
just relax. And then before you know it, you've already made it to the weekend. And that's already 7 days.
Yeah.
And, you know,
That's a big deal for some people.
yeah, for some people, just taking that next step is a big deal. And I would always think to myself, you know, one day I really want kids, and I could always imagine myself, you know, kicking the footy with my son, which is because I love footy. It's a big part of my life, and that's all I really. It's a goal for me to just be able to kick the footy with my son, and before you know it, you've made it to your next month, and
Yeah.
you know
Wow.
that's when it starts to get a bit easier. It's never easy, especially, you know, struggling with your mental health is never easy. And before you know it, I said 2022 and 2023, those sort of years were very hard for me, but I've already made it to 2024.
Oh, wow.
And before I knew it, all that time has already passed. I've gone through my experiences, and yeah, I've started to feel like I'm at a point now where I'm coming at peace with my life and my childhood, trying to put all that behind me. Considering even one time I had someone say to me, "It's your childhood, it's in the past, you need to grow up now." Like, you know, that sort of thing, when people say that, like, it really does hurt a lot. And you got to try and when that particular person said that to me, like, I tried to show that I wasn't hurt by what they said, because another thing, people who have these bad mental health breaks, they try and show other people that they're not going through these things because they don't want to inflict that pain onto other people, which is something I feel like I had to try and challenge myself to do. You know, when I go out with my friends on the weekend, I don't want to be acting like sad all the time, because otherwise I'm just going to make them feel sad and it's just going to ruin everyone's night. So I kind of just had to, you know, put a face on. And I'll be honest, 99% of people in my life don't even know that I struggle with mental health issues, because I bottle things up a lot. And that's when my friend S said to me, he goes, "Dude, you need to stop bottling it up. Man, you can just talk to me, bro. Tell me anything you want." And yeah, that's where I was very lucky, because I did have someone I could talk to. You know, I told him things that I wouldn't even say to my own mother.
And you've got to have the right people around you.
Exactly
It's
right.
quality. It's the quality of your relationships, not the number of people you know.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be able to confide in the people that, like you said a bit earlier in the podcast, that you know, or at least you're pretty confident in. They're not just going to tell you what is soft and easy and what you think may help you, will make you feel better, sorry.
Right.
You would rather know from them what is going to help me. What can help get through this? Even if it stings now. Okay, it will sting a little bit now. Fair enough. We'll forget about it. We'll move on. It's a quality of relationships.
Exactly right. And like I've already said, not everyone has someone to turn to. But what I'm doing with myself these days is I'm trying to make new friends. I'm trying to learn new things. You know, wanting to help myself and make myself better is very important to, you know, seeing out the rest of my life. Not everyone gets to choose when they, you know, I'll say pass away. Not everyone gets that choice. So when you have the opportunity to keep going, you must keep going for the people that you still have.
Yeah.
And
And you've referred to that somewhere down here in your notes. You said that we all really need someone that's with us in our lives now that we're going to strive to stay around for and to work for and help out and be the best person for them. I mean, again, your notes. Elaborate on them.
and exactly, yeah. And I say I did in a time when I was at my lowest of all lows. I always think, you know, for my mum especially, she always, no matter what, and no matter what she went through, she never took it out on me and my brothers. And I feel like I really do owe it to her to keep going. And I feel like if I was to give up now, then, you know, it wouldn't be fair on her for all the hard work that she's put into me, all the times she's told me, you know, you just keep going to school.
Yeah.
I was about to drop out at the start of year 11. She goes, "You know what? Just get to your next we call them in Australia, we call them sacks. It's just like a test. And she said, just get to your next sack, your next test, and just see how you go. And if I had have dropped out at the start of year 11, it would have been the first step in giving up. And I stuck it out to the end. And, I feel like if I was to give up now in my life, I would be, I wouldn't be repaying her for all the hard work that she's put into me. And I
Yeah, of
know,
course. Yep.
the last thing I want to do is break my mum's heart because she means the world to me. And yeah, that's why I say, just keep going for the people that you still have, because there's nothing worse than losing someone you thought would never leave in your life.
So I'm assuming you've had instances of people like that then, have you, or have you not, where people have kind of come and gone from your life,
No matter
if
what,
that's the case?
a couple of examples was, when you go through relationships, whatever, you get together with, people, you break up. But nothing compares to the pain of the day when my dad said, goodbye, I'm not coming back. It's nothing that compares to that pain, because it's something that always stays in my mind. I can never forget it.
What do you mean? What happened?
The day, my mum kicked him out, and all he said to us was, goodbye, you're never going to see me again.
Never.
That's what he said. And it was probably a bit of time went past, but, we did get to start seeing our dad again and stuff. He just always struggled with that aspect. And one thing I want to add to that, Christian, is just because I'm feeling a certain way, we all go through different life experiences. Some people go through a lot worse things.
Yeah, I think when you were saying that when someone is going through something and many other people are going through other things as well, whether they're the same things or they're different things, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're going through different things. The magnitude of what they're going through and the effects that it has on those people are still there for each and every one of us, regardless.
Exactly right. And we all, I
It's
feel like, yeah, we all deserve help. So
But we all have a right to feel the way we do, because as you said before, like we're all humans and we're all the same. We all feel things. Whether or not we show it is another thing. Correct? Would you say?
right, yeah, and I feel like men do a huge job at trying to bottle everything up, and I feel like it's a huge issue that we have, not just in Australia but throughout the whole world.
Yeah.
I mean, statistics show that one out of every 4 suicides are women, and the other 3 are men.
Oh, okay.
And I was referring to a website that I found that said 12 out of every 100,000 Australians will commit suicide. And it might not seem like many, 12 people, but just think about this. The MCG can hold 100,000 people. If you go to a footy match that has 100,000 people, the next day, 12 people won't wake up in the morning because they've committed suicide.
Yeah.
That could, like, when you put that into context, like, I feel like it's still a huge number.
It is, yeah. But when you multiply how many times you'd go to that ground you mentioned and there's a full house, full capacity, 100,000 people, and you multiply that by all the times that we know that that's happened, and in our lifetimes that's a lot,
Right.
that's a fuckload of people that have gone the next day and then basically,
And
you know.
exactly right. That's based off 3,249 people that committed suicide. That's based off 2022, because the 2023 I couldn't find those statistics. But yeah, based off just 2022 alone is it's a huge number, and although we'll never be able to trim that down to 0, unfortunately, it's still a lot of people.
And what's the relevance of you describing those statistics here today?
Well, I feel like if we learn to talk about our feelings, which is what I did, I talked about my feelings to my mum and my friend S.
Yeah, the right people. Yeah, for
And
you.
I spoke to the right people, exactly right. And if we just find that comfort someone that we can talk to, then even if it helps half of that number, it's still a huge difference. You know, all we need to do is just try and find someone to talk to, and the world can become a much less scary place. I'm at peace with my life, and I feel like, you know, I left school not really knowing what I wanted to do, and you know, I completed a course in tiling, and now I'm qualified, and it's just a goal that I set for myself, and I'm happy that I did it. I just kept pushing, and that came at a very important point in my life where I was very low. You know, I'm happy that I did, and I didn't give up, because I've got a beautiful niece and or two beautiful nieces and two beautiful nephews, and right now that's what I'm, you know, looking after.
And man, we had the fact that you were apprentice of the year at one point.
Yeah, that
That made
actually
put you on
came.
the spot.
I'm not gonna
But
lie, that came as a
it's
bit
good.
of a shock.
Good
I
confidence booster though.
didn't expect that, but you know,
It's a good
it's
confidence
just
booster.
it's little wins that you take.
Absolutely. Hence why I'm saying it.
You
Yeah.
know, every time I was angry, Mum would always say to me, "You can't always win," but my response would always be, "But you can't always lose either."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she always believed that, you know, one day I would get there.
It's something that other people can take away from that and go, fuck, you know, I could do something like that too. It's a small moral victory or a small personal victory of your own, and you can say, or other people can watching this can say, I can do that. I can strive for that. Look at what Jordan went through. Look at the conditions he grew up in when he felt hopeless and helpless, and like, what's the point in trying? Well, now we can see where he's at, where he's got to, and what he's achieved, including with that award. So,
Yeah.
well done on that.
Thanks, man.
No, it's all right. It's
Appreciate
good.
it.
It's good.